Platform Ministries. This is Tracy. Hey, thank you so much for watching the videos. I really am so psyched when you do. And I love when you comment because it kind of gives me feedback, lets me know where I'm at with you. And I love it when you post it. And for those of you who have joined my Patreon channel, you rock! Hey, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much that encourages me. And today I have a question for you. Has God ever burdened you with something? I mean, He just came down on you with something so greatly, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's like someone was hanging on you with every step. He's just waited on you. Well, here, let me read you the book of Nehemiah, chapter 1, verse 4. Listen to this. When I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, and I was fasting and praying before the God of Israel. Oh man, what is going on here? Who is this, and why in the world are they doing this? Well, this is Nehemiah, okay? And he is Jewish, all right? He's a cupbearer to the king, King Xerxes, all right? And Nehemiah just got really bad news, okay? Have you ever gotten really bad news and it just drops you like a rock? You're like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? It indirectly affects you and it burdens your heart. What's he burdened about? Well, the bad news he got was that Jerusalem, when he was asking, how is it back in Jerusalem? He's talking to some cousins, okay? And they say, oh man, Jerusalem's a mess. The walls around it and the gates, they're destroyed. They're torn down. The gates are burned up. It's a mess. And Nehemiah's like, are you kidding me? No one's done anything? It's just laying in waste there? And so what does he do? He's so heavy-hearted. He's mourning, he's crying, and then he starts fasting. And what's he doing? Fasting, he's not eating, he's not drinking. He's praying to God. He's saying, oh, Lord God, there's got to be something that has to be done. This is your chosen city. Israel is the apple of your eye, and it's in ruins. Watch this, the burden that Nehemiah had, where did that come from? God placed it on Nehemiah. He gave him that burden. And so, what does Nehemiah do? What is he to do? He's what you and I are to do. He prayed and he gave it back to God. He put it in God's court. So he's petitioning the Lord and he's saying, Lord, this is your chosen people. This is your chosen place, Jerusalem, and look at it. Look at it, Lord. And then what does the Lord do? The Lord puts the burden back on Nehemiah and says, you do something. And now Nehemiah is going to move forward with the Lord and he's going to do something. See, it's the same way in our lives. Sometimes something will come along and we're not looking to really do anything, but we're praying about it. The Lord burdens our heart to pray about something, whatever it might be. So we're petitioning the Lord, and then all of a sudden the Lord places that back on us. He gives us like that light, and it's like, He wants me to do something. And so while sometimes we may not know what to do right away, we ask Lord, okay, Lord, if you want me to do something, show me what it is that you want me to do. I mean, I'm only one person. What in the world can I do? And what if Nehemiah asked that question? What if he said, but God, I'm only one person. I'm a cupbearer to the king. What do I know about building a wall? God will raise you up to do what you cannot do in and of yourself. Only He can do it in and through you. This is how God operates normally in each of our lives. He'll place that burden there. And then we'll realize, God, I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. And then we throw back to God, and then what does God do? Then God says, ah, good. Now I'll show you what I need you to do, and I'll work through you. What did Nehemiah do, right? He just prayed and fasted for days, okay? Now, let's see the importance of that, because now he's in the presence of the king, okay? And he's doing his job, which is what? Which is a cupbearer giving him wine, okay? But Nehemiah is not his joyful self, okay? And the king notices, what's the matter, Nehemiah? You look sad. Well, this is dangerous for Nehemiah because, see, you're not supposed to be sad in front of the king. You're supposed to be happy. Everything's going great. Otherwise, you could end up in big trouble, okay? So anyways, the king says, what's wrong, Nehemiah? You're not your joyful self. And Nehemiah he says a prayer real quick, and then tells the king the burden that the Lord has placed on him about the walls, about the gates, and how it's been weighing him down. So what does the king do? The king says, Nehemiah, what would you like to do? What would you have me to do? Now, Nehemiah's open to be able to ask the king for something to do about the walls. Not just telling him now. Now he's able to do something. Watch this. I want you to get this. Because Nehemiah prayed ahead of time, petitioning God, God went ahead of him and prepared the king's heart. Now the king's heart was receptive to what Nehemiah wanted to do or needed to do. What God was preparing Nehemiah to do now too. Because of Nehemiah's prayers, now the king asks him, he questions, what would you like me to do? How can I help you, Nehemiah? See, God prepared it all ahead of him. He was pushing all those obstacles out of the way, getting things ready because God said, Nehemiah, you're the man. I want you to do something. And so now God is preparing the way for him to be able to do that. See, King Xerxes is like Nehemiah's resource guy. See, where God guides, God provides. He's going to give you those resources if he burdens you with something. If he's placing a heavy burden on you to do something about something, he's going to plow down the way and give you those resources. He's going to have them come right at you. It's going to come right to you. And you're going to look around thinking, where in the world did that come from? Don't ask where did that come from. Look up to God and say, thank you, Jesus. I know it's all from you. Okay, so now Nehemiah not only gets permission from King Xerxes, he gets resources from King Xerxes. He gets wood and he gets all these different things to be able to go to Jerusalem. And God just flings wide open the door there, okay? He gets to Jerusalem and then he surveys the walls. And what does he see? He sees utter disaster, exactly as he was told. The walls are crumbled down, the gates are burned, everything's a wreck. And have you ever had a task in front of you and you look at it and you think, that's impossible? I am sure he looked at those walls and thought, Lord, where do I start? Why was it such an insurmountable task? Let me give you a little perspective, okay? See these boulders? They're huge. They're big, right? And this wall is only probably 7 feet tall. That's about it, okay? The walls that we're talking about in Jerusalem, well, they were like 40 feet tall, okay? And they were like 15 feet wide. These were huge, huge walls that he was going to try to repair, rebuild, and restore. It was just like, God, what should I do here? What do I know about building a wall? Well, that's where God comes in. I want you to realize this, guys, in your life and in my life, when God does call you to do something, when he does burden you with something, you are always going to face opposition. The devil is going to use whoever he can and whatever circumstance he can to come against you, to stop you from moving forward with that thing God has placed on your heart. Why? Because the enemy doesn't want us to further God's kingdom. He wants to kill, steal, and destroy. Watch in the life of Nehemiah how God miraculously worked. Nehemiah 6, verses 15 and 16, it reads like this. So the wall was completed on the 25th of the month of Elul in 52 days. When all our enemies heard of it and all the nations surrounding us saw it, they lost their confidence, for they recognized that this work had been accomplished with the help of our God. See, when God showed up, the people around the surrounding enemies, they were shaking in their boots. Why? Because they knew that was God who accomplished that. See, this was a huge task. How in the world did they do it in 52 days? God! Let me just give you one of the things that God told them to do. Each person is doing the section in front of their house. One neighbor's doing this section, another neighbor's doing that section, the one down there is doing that section. So as each person is doing that section, it helps to get a good start on the wall. So, that which was impossible over 52 days with God's guidance and all these people's help became possible. You might be asking, well, how does this apply to my life? Really? Come on now. Nothing is impossible with God. When God places a big burden on you in your life, He is going to be there. You throw it back to God, you pray, and you petition Him, and you say, Lord, what is it you want me to do? He will reveal to you what it is He wants you to do, and then He will pave the way for you to do it and supply one resource after another. Yes, the enemy will come along and try to stop that, but you give it back to God again. God will show you this is the way you walk in it. Remember this, Job 42:2, for I know that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. And what does that mean? That means God's plan cannot be stopped in your life. The reason He asks you to do something impossible is so that He gets the glory. So guys, in your life, realize this, no obstacle, no roadblock, no wall can stop you from doing what God has called you to do when you're including God in what He wants you to do, okay? Hey guys, there is no task that is insurmountable with God. You are unstoppable with God. You and God make an awesome team. God will use you in ways you could never have imagined. Just remember that, okay? This has been Tracy from Mr. 414 Ministries.